What do you get when you combine blue alien cat people, billion-dollar box office dominance, and more environmental allegory than a vegan restaurant mural? You get Avatar, a franchise that has made so much money it could probably buy Pandora, or at least a really nice floating mountain. Today, we'll be diving into Avatar and its massive ocean-soaked sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water, to explore what makes these films cultural juggernauts, why they print money like it's a hobby, and what actually works and doesn't about James Cameron's blue-tinted space epic. Some background on the first movie. It was released in December 2009, directed by James Cameron and scored by James Horner. This movie arrived like the cinematic equivalent of a meteor wearing 3D glasses. The spaceship, I like the look of. The Venture Star, it's sleek, and Pandora, I think that's a perfect name for the planet. It's much better than unobtainium, doesn't sound very creative, and it sounds like a late-night improv joke about mining something that doesn't exist.
You are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora, ladies and gentlemen. Respect that fact every second of every day. If there is a hell, you might want to go there for some R&R after a tour on Pandora. Out there beyond that fence, every living thing that crawls, flies, or squats in the mud wants to kill you and eat your eyes for jujubes. We have an indigenous population of humanoids called the Na'vi.
Jake Sully is a paralyzed former Marine whose twin brother, the original Avatar operator, has died. Struggling with life on Earth and seeking purpose, Jake is given the chance to walk again in his Avatar body. Sam Worthington, who played Jake Sully, auditioned while living out of his car, becoming the bridge between humanity and Pandora. Kind of like Paul Atreides from Dune, but dropped into a neon jungle, or Kevin Costner's John Dunbar from Dances with Wolves, except with glowing stripes and ears you could file taxes in. Pandora is bursting with alien life, glowing flora, hammerhead rhinos, flying dragon things, and tree-sized dragonflies. Bioluminescent plant designs were inspired by deep-sea life, creating a jungle that's both beautiful and slightly terrifying. Every corner of Pandora has its own ecosystem, from miniature creatures hiding under leaves to gigantic predators lurking in the night. Jake is introduced to Neytiri, Zoe Saldana, whose performance literally reshaped her CGI face, and immediately fails the respect nature test. She spares him because apparently the petals of the sacred tree like him, making him special enough to survive. The Braids connection system is a Na'vi multi-tool, bonding with animals, mating, linking to sacred trees, or even connecting with a fellow Na'vi's consciousness. Because why not make your neural hair do literally everything? Training sequences are filled with humor and skill building. Jake rides space horses, flies dragon things, and learns the Na'vi ways, including archery, hunting, and meditation. Cameron's virtual camera and motion capture technology let every Na'vi moment look fluid and real, while facial capture helmets record micro-expressions down to a raised eyebrow. Humans are mining unobtainium, a resource so valuable they'll destroy sacred forests. Parker Selfridge, played by Giovanni Ribisi, just your standard corporate head honcho jerk guy, manages profits while Colonel Quaritch, Stephen Lang, menacing as always, prepares militaristic domination plans. Grace Augustine, played by Sigourney Weaver, who learns to speak the Na'vi language phonetically, serves as the moral compass, reluctantly training Jake and trying not to scream at corporate stupidity. The plot escalates with Jake torn between loyalty to humans and his growing bond with the Na'vi. Clashes lead to the destruction of Home Tree. The Na'vi retaliate in the final battle. Dragons dive-bomb gunships, arrows pierce armored suits, and the forest itself seems alive. A toucan, played by Wes Studi, also in Dances with Wolves, leads the Na'vi charge. Trudy, Michelle Rodriguez, rips through the sky in her gunship, aiding the Na'vi. Motion capture stages were nicknamed The Volume because Cameron apparently loves cool-sounding tech names. This isn't the same volume used for Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian. That's a later Industrial Light and Magic stagecraft LED setup for real-time virtual production. Cameron's volume was purely motion capture and facial capture focused, mostly for filming Na'vi and Pandora, while the stagecraft volume lets actors perform inside fully rendered CGI worlds live on set. I did like this movie, but it's not the most memorable story. It's definitely Dances with Wolves in space, with maybe a little Dune and some Last Samurai added in too. Overall, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10, and the characters weren't particularly memorable. I didn't find myself really rooting for anybody. It's kind of just indifferent. It's kind of just the visuals that I think make this movie stand out. The box office for the first movie, for the original release in 2009, it made $760 million worldwide. Then they did a special release in 2010 with only a very small increase. Then a China re-release in 2017 added another 124 million. Then in 2020, another global theatrical release added another 50 million. And then again in 2022, before Avatar 2, they added a little bit more. So in total, it's sitting at 2.923 billion worldwide. So it's almost at 3 billion now with all its re-releases. So, you know, this does make it the highest grossing film of the time until Avengers Endgame temporarily took the crown. Background of Avatar 2. It was released December 2022. After 13 years of planning and filming, Avatar The Way of Water brought audiences back to Pandora with new tribes like the ocean-dwelling Metekeina and massive new creatures including tulkun whales, deep-sea predators, and even more flying dragons. Cameron developed underwater motion capture technology and actors including Kate Winslet trained extensively to perform stunts underwater. The cinematography blends LED lit tanks, real water physics, and CGI. And for once, the CGI actually looks great, especially the Na'vi faces, real, expressive, and uncommon compared to CGI in some of the MCU movies. Beyond the visuals, the film explores family, tribal alliances, and the Na'vi's connection to their world. Sully's evolution as a dad was something I did enjoy, and I wish we had a little bit more time to set up the family more before the chaos hit. Watching him interact with his kids, I enjoyed.
A father protects. It's what gives him meaning.
In The Way of Water, Jake and Neytiri now have a family. Neyteom, responsible older brother, always trying to keep his siblings out of trouble. Loak, middle child troublemaker, played by Britton Dalton. Kiri, Grace Augustine's posthumous child. Sigourney Weaver was brought back to play Kiri, and I find it weird that they brought a 76-year-old Sigourney Weaver. Well, she wasn't 76 at the time, but she was still in her 70s to play a teenager. That's odd. And then you've got Tuktatray, youngest sibling, adorable and endearing, if you like that sort of thing. The story begins with a peaceful life on Pandora. Humans are still a threat, traveling from a dead Earth to colonize Pandora, which I think makes more sense than traveling 6 years just to mine a rock that doesn't do anything. Their attacks force the family to flee and seek refuge with the Metekeina water tribe, whose culture, reef villages, and interaction with marine life are stunning. Ronal, played by Kate Winslet, guides the family while Tonawari, played by Cliff Curtis, teaches tribal customs and underwater survival. Loak befriends a tulkun whale, which miraculously saves him from drowning. Convenient, very convenient that was. The underwater sequences required groundbreaking motion capture. Kate Winslet trained to hold her breath for minutes. Children actors practiced extensive underwater movement, and the tanks were LED lit for realistic lighting. Every shot combines physical and CGI elements seamlessly. Conflict escalates when Quaritch, played once again by Stephen Lang, who is now a Na'vi, pursues the family, creating tension in both open water and coral reef environments. Conveniently, breathing creatures and helpful animals appear when needed. Ronal fights while heavily pregnant, which is obviously not realistic and dumb. It reminded me of something in the Vikings TV show from a few years back, where one of the characters, Lagertha, she fought while pregnant and she ended up losing her baby. You don't fight when you're pregnant. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do lots of strenuous activity while pregnant because it obviously has issues, and fighting in a battle is pretty strenuous, I would think. And that example is more believable. The character made some dumb decision and there was consequences, but when in Avatar 2, she's fine, no big deal. Now, yeah, they're aliens, so maybe they're a little tough, but still, why would you send a pregnant lady into battle? What if they die? You lose them both. What kind of culture allows pregnant women to go to battle? That's just dumb. At the climax of the movie, underwater battles mix dragons, submarines, and Na'vi with sea life in an interesting battle. Sully fights as a dad, kids contribute in meaningful ways, except if some of the kids weren't there, they couldn't be used as leverage for Quaritch, so it would have been better to have some of the kids stay home, and the visual spectacle is unparalleled. The final battle is basically James Cameron yelling, "Bigger, wetter, louder," for a solid half hour, as ships flip, whales rage, and blue people somersault in slow motion while the runtime quietly laughs at you. Quaritch spends the climax being aggressively evil until, surprise, his son, Spider, saves him. A moment clearly meant to hit you right in the feels. Cameron reportedly had the actors doing underwater performance capture for minutes at a time, which is impressive, because I was holding my breath too, just waiting to care. The scale is enormous, the visuals are stunning, and the choreography is meticulous, but emotionally, it all feels like watching the world's most beautiful tech demo. By the time the smoke clears and the wreckage sinks, I can admire the craftsmanship, respect the behind-the-scenes insanity that went into filming it, and after all that noise, scale, and spectacle, I'm still sitting at a flat 5 out of 10. A few other things. Sigourney Weaver's Na'vi, her body, I guess, was pregnant somehow. It does feel a little bit like maybe a Chosen One or Immaculate Conception type of thing. So maybe not, but it just feels like, oh, are we going to have some Chosen One type of deal with her daughter? I think that's kind of, in the middle of the movie, this movie kind of slowed down and it's kind of boring. Yeah, and then the youngest daughter does a lot of dumb things. Like she gets captured multiple times. Yeah, instead of going away, I gotta go save one of my brothers. And then what happens? She ends up getting captured again. Yeah, this movie's not quite Dances with Wolves in Space anymore. It's a little bit more like Finding Nemo meets Moana meets Titanic, with a little bit of like Blue Planet sprinkled in with like the ocean stuff. And with the Water Tribe, and in the third movie with the Fire Tribe, we're kind of getting a little bit of like an Avatar The Last Airbender with all these different tribes. One last thing on Avatar 2 before we move on. Jake Sully says a line in the movie, a father's job is to protect his family. I might have paraphrased it a little bit, but that's the gist of the quote. So I just like that. I think that's a good thing. The Way of Water box office. It had a worldwide gross of $2.31 billion, making it the highest grossing film of 2022. And then in 2023, they re-release in China, which added tens of millions more to its total. They also had an IMAX and premium format reissues 2023 to 2024, which added even more money. So in total, its final box office total is $2.32 billion.
Your goddess has no dominion here.
Avatar 3. In the Avatar 3 trailer, we're introduced to the Fire Tribe, or the Ash People, a darker, volcanic culture, continuing the humans versus Na'vi conflict. Visually, it's kind of more of the same CGI spectacle stuff that looks good, though the hostile Fire Tribe, it's a welcome change from the familiar Sully versus Quaritch endings, I assume. Of course, the movie isn't out yet. We could still get at the end of the movie Sully versus Quaritch again. The trailer hints at possible answers regarding Sigourney Weaver's younger character, though it's hard to say. I still think it's going to be some kind of Chosen One or a representation of the goddess the Na'vi worship. And so blue people flying around amidst lava and volcanoes and all that. That'll give the classic Pandora spectacle that these movies seem to have. So why are these movies a box office juggernaut? Why do these movies rake in so much money at the box office, despite not being super memorable movies in terms of plot and character? For Avatar 1, I think it's the stunning visuals. They were breathtaking and different. You hadn't really seen something like that, I think, before. And you had the 3D craze, which I do recall. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that this is one of those movies that people say is actually kind of fun to watch in 3D, back when 3D movies were all the rage. As for Avatar 2, there's still the spectacle. In Avatar 2, you've got the spectacle of all the underwater scenes that are cool and fascinating to look at. And I also think that part of it is you had a gap between the first and the second. So it's been long enough that we could kind of like, oh, here's Pandora again. You could kind of, I think that's part of it. Cameron spent over a decade building underwater tech, perfecting each creature in Reef Village, and the undersea sequences alone are jaw-dropping. A few other things, Cameron's event film status, he's James Cameron, he's a pretty famous director. He's made some interesting movies over the past few decades. The film does, I think, have a more global appeal with family dynamics, and obviously re-releases have given some money for these. Avatar 2 is getting a re-release just before the third movie, so it's gonna get a small boost in the box office. And obviously IMAX, which is the best theater format for movies. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the third one does. Is it gonna make well over 2 billion, or is it gonna do something disappointing like 1.5, as if making 1.5 billion at the box office is a disappointment. But for this big movie, these movies are not cheap. 1.5 would be a disappointment. I don't even know if the movie would break even at that point. The budget for Avatar 3 is probably 500-600 million without marketing. Sure, they might say on paper it's 250 million, but that's a lie. I mean, come on, you look at these movies. These movies are not the standard 250 million budget. In short, it's the spectacle, a little bit of timing, and James Cameron as a filmmaker, I think, with technology and all that stuff, that I think turned these movies into the juggernauts they are. Pandora is far from finished, and Cameron isn't finished telling Avatar stories either, because after the third one, I believe we're supposed to get 2 more movies. The third movie, it just looks more of the same, but with volcanoes and a new tribe. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Blue Madness, let me know in the comments down below, as well as if you enjoy these movies. Share that as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.